called my phone, said she missed me, but I saw her like last night.
I hope everyone's doing well and welcome back to another weekly outlook. So cool. There is a lot going on in the markets and in the world right now. I'm sure a lot of you guys are aware of the, sort of Iran, Israel and USA debacle, is the right word we can use. So in short, the market's closed, right? We've probably seen the headlines throughout the week. There's rising tensions, Israel, Iran fighting back and forth, blah, blah. But literally yesterday, I believe, the USA has bombed Iran, which is, of course, going to lead to escalating tensions. Since then already, Iran has decided to close the Strait of Hormuz. I think that's how you say it. I'm not sure. Essentially, it's a passage in the sea that they sort of control. And from closing that, they can sort of cut out 20% of the world's oil supply. Essentially, a lot of oil from the Middle East passes through that passage to then go on to the rest of the world. And I'm assuming big ships and tankers and whatnot. And they have the power to sort of close or open that. And they've said, you know what, as sort of retaliation, we're going to close this. And now, just very obviously, what is that going to mean, right? First of all, it's going to mean that people are going to flock to risk off assets, which is going to be your gold. At times, it can be a dollar, but in this scenario, I don't think it will be. And, just safer assets, we can definitely expect a pump in oil. We can expect the stocks to drop and crypto to drop, right? Just a very basic idea of how we can expect this sort of market environment to get now. In terms of DXY, I won't be expecting now. This week that just passed, right, we were looking for shorts from this daily fair value gap, possibly, was the idea. It didn't offer that. It went into this premium, but return. I'm still watching this area. I'm not bullish on the DXY, despite this idea of them being in the wall and whatnot. I think it will actually be bearish, right? Even though there's rise in tension and sometimes DXY can be a safe haven asset, I think it's more likely that we either see consolidation or we see price sweep this zone and then we look for lower prices. Now, I think a sweep on this zone is very likely. Based on last week's close, we had an inside candle. We can easily find ourselves, up here, manipulate above 1, 2, 3, the past 3 candles highs, sweep that buy side liquidity, offer a very nice entry possibly on some pairs, and then look for a reverse on the DXY. It is possible that we just turn around from where we are, but I think more likely than not, these highs are very, very flat and we are very close to them. So I definitely radar now. Quick look at news. So this was Trump speaking after the war. It's quite funny, actually. It's very sort of narcissistic to an extent. He's essentially given the go-ahead to bomb Iran and then has said, Iran needs to choose peace now and sort of come to terms with us and make an agreement. But yeah, it's just a very silly situation. We have a lot of news events on the Monday with flash manufacturing for the euro, pound, and US dollar. Something to watch for on the Monday. We can get a move. On Tuesday, we have Powell speaking, which will be the big mover for the dollar, and some CAD news in the middle of NY. We then have Powell speaking again on the Wednesday, which will likely be the biggest mover, apart from the headlines, which we'll talk about in a second. And then GDP on the Thursday, which I would say is the main mover of the week, the dollar from Forex Factory at least, and then another red folder, the dollar on the Friday. So essentially lots of news scattered around the week. Not bad at all. Definitely expecting volatility. Now, past the Forex Factory, one thing it won't show us is the headlines that will come up with the news. It's very, very, very important that you keep up to date with the news. You understand what's happening. If there's any big sort of shock headlines coming out, big things happening, and you're in intraday positions specifically, you could get swept out of them very quick. So, it's important to be conservative. It's either, hop out a time frame or reduce your risk, right? The market will definitely move, but it can move either way very, very quick in environments like this. Keep up with the news. I always say, my good friend from Labyrinth Capital, he's always publishing the latest headlines. They're pretty quick in his channel, so you guys should definitely join that if you haven't already. I'm assuming most of you guys are in there. Back to the charts. Let's look at the bond yields. Of course, the bond yields, right, will be a precursor for the DXY. Now, there's nothing crazy to say about them. There's nothing clear in terms of price action that I expect. But more likely than not, especially with a sort of buy side sweep here and a bit of a kick down, I would expect that we continue our way low. I think we've hit the premium of this consolidation. The likelihood is that from here, we will find ourselves moving towards the discount now. And this sort of sell side will be the next one to lock onto, especially if we can give a kick past these lows. it's likely we start expanded this way. Of course, Euro, we have lots of moves coming up on Monday. Big move here. We spoke about this last week. If we get a continuation move, we'll be leaving a fair value gap behind. We'll also be, covering this previous bearish fair value gap in a balanced price range. And the likelihood is that would show the intent of price wanting to move higher. And we may start working our way towards this high. Right now, we're sort of still in the middle of the range. I wouldn't say it's exactly very clear, but more likely than not, I would see this as a market move buy model in place on that time frame. I mean, we can definitely see price carry on working its way higher for now, at least, as I would say, at the very least. Past that, we can look for the big high as well. In terms of retraction this week, there's nowhere amazing at the moment, if I'm being honest. I would like to see price retrace to right. We've left a lot of, just bullish candles. It does make things a bit difficult. Again, on the Monday, there's a lot of news, the euro and the pound. So let's see what that brings out. And, from there, we can assess it. Take look at our crosses, or major, sorry. So USDJPY not bad. I've not taken a position on this, but this is actually what we spoke about. We said, there's a good likelihood, even though price is engineered the sell side, that we can run higher and take some of this buy side out. Right. Before we get a reversal into the premium of this range. I'll still stand by this. I do think we can get a sweep and a reversal here, especially remember what we saw on the DXY. We have those flat highs very similar to this, where if we sweep the buy side, get a kick down, then it sets up for a very nice move to the lows, especially USDJPY or equal lows on the chart waiting to be taken. So this is not a bad trade idea in my opinion here, building up. But due to the situation and due to how we've sort of pushed into this premium, I'm not going to be taking a limit from there. I'd rather see price sweep this and give us some sort of, signal displacement downwards, maybe a 1 hour market structure, maybe a really good daily close for me to then think, okay, yeah, you know what, now I'm happy to engage this. USDCAD, very similar. We spoke about this. Daily fair value gap was near enough untouched, had a very slight sweep. We knew this buy side can get swept, and from here we can expect a reversal. Still the same scenario again. Very similar to the DXY, we're getting that buy side sweep. We want to see how the DXY moves from here. Also, of course, if one pair starts looking better than the other, for example, USDCAD is better than USDJPY and you're entertaining a position, make sure you're also paying attention to the CAD futures, the 6C1 and whatnot. I do have my eyes on USDCAD specifically because we have CPI for the CAD coming up and we don't really have as many drivers for the JPY. So there's a good chance that this could be the better moving chart during the week. You take a quick look at 6C1. Of course, if we want to see USDCAD bearish, we want to see this chart bullish. And to me, I would say, this is a fairly bullish looking chart. Got this nice range to play with. If the new week opens with a previous weekly low sweep, maybe even a push into this discount to give a really nice entry in USDCAD, then I would say it's a continued market maker buy model expansion this high, and of course past that as well. That's the sort of thing I'll be looking. Definitely not a bad setup lining up. S&P, of course, we've turned bearish in the short to mid-term, especially because of this war news. Definitely not expecting price to, give us a kick up unless there's a major change. At the moment, it's just in a consolidation, right? There's still a good chance we can get some sort of AMD if they come to some sort of agreement. But there's a quick turnaround in, political events. But for now, I wouldn't really be, too active with the stock market. I wouldn't be hopeful. If something is offered, it's likely it will be shorts. I don't really see us getting any longs from here just yet. I was deep in this discount and we're seeing some sort of fundamental changes. Then we can consider, any swing longs or even intraday longs. We're getting a turnaround from this on. That's the sort of area I'll be watching for now. At the moment, just not very interested, as we said. Look at Bitcoin. I believe has been taking a big hit. Also, the sort of scenario that I was watching and I was going to talk about in the weekly outlook anyways, was that here we have a possible monthly fair value gap, right? What I think will happen is there's not long left in the month, there's about a week. I don't really see us tanking too hard from here, right? Or at least I would hope not. Because then what we could set up for, because I am still bullish I don't think it's gonna, just gonna turn into a bear market or anything along those lines. I don't think we're gonna push all the way to 74 or anything crazy like that. I do think this is our sort of dealing range. This is where we'll stay. And of course, you could definitely see the discount tap. But what I'd like to see, and would be a sort of ideal scenario, is if price, slows down a bit, stays steady, new month opens, start off with a previous monthly low sweep, maybe even a dig into the discount, and then it sets up for that AMD reversal possibly. Of course, you see with that, theoretically, what we're saying is that Bitcoin will decouple from the market, that it's going to sort of become a risk off asset. And it's a bold assumption to make, especially considering stocks are bleeding and, Bitcoin is sort of leading that drop right now. So take that with a pinch of salt. Right, I do believe it's a thing of, we could just come to the discount and start consolidating here for a while. Bitcoin has the tendency to do that. That's something to bear in mind. But, if this was going to be a sort of large scale reversal, I wouldn't have expected to sort of build this consolidation breakout. I think it's more likely that I'm going to break higher again before seeing any sort of major reversal. What do we have left? Gold. Last one we'll quickly touch on. So I'm actually in a position on gold. Not bad at all, right? Very close to stop loss, but it's had a great closure. Yep, had a great closure. And I think from here, Monday, or rather tonight, we'll open with a gap up. And when we open with that gap up, more likely than not, guys, watch this, daily close. I'd be very confident that this is a new swing placed in if the next day gaps up. And from here, we are going to push for all-time highs. Like I said, war tensions have escalated massively over the last day, which is just Saturday. So when we come to the end of the weekend and, the market will look to price this in as we open up, it's likely this will be flying out with. And I think for the remainder of the week, I don't really see things de-escalating immediately. It's a good chance we cut before we get, anything else on gold. Again, push for the all-time high from here. Should be a very good setup. But yeah, guys, that is it for the weekly outlook. As usual, any questions at all, anything I can help with, you can drop me a message.